Welcome to Newslaundry Chhota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. Newslaundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a Newslaundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ हफ्ता. We are recording this on Friday. We usually record on Thursday, but because of election and yesterday was counting day, we figured we'd record today so that it doesn't get too dated. It is 1:20 in the afternoon on the 11th of March, Friday. And in the brand new News Laundry studio, I have joining me Manisha Pande. Hi,
Hello.
Manisha.
Hello, everyone.
After a whirlwind month of traveling across 4 states.
2 months almost.
Emerged COVID-free.
Yeah, I think I'm just a superhero. I had this conversation many times with Parikshit and Lippy that I think I should be sent for some checkup.
You're an ex-person.
Because I survived West Bengal, then I survived Goa, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand.
Okay.
During Omicron and Delta, so I'm just
Excellent.
supreme.
So your blood should be distributed among those who are at high risk. Also joining us on the phone line are our panelists. Let's start with Jatinder Kaur Tur. Hi, Jatinder.
Hi.
You're joining us from where right now?
I'm in Chandigarh.
Okay.
Oh, great.
And
So lots of action happening there.
yes, you have 2 decades of journalistic experience across the Indian Express, Times of India, Hindustan Times and Deccan Chronicle. That pretty much covers everything.
Yes, it does.
And right now you freelance?
Yeah, sort of.
I see. And for
So
all
I'm
these,
contributing writer for the Caravan right now.
also joining us on the phone line is Sandesh Prabhudesai. Hi, Sandesh.
Hi.
You are joining us from Goa and you're the author of Ajeeb, Goa's Gajab Politics. And why Ajeeb, Goa's Gajab Politics?
Refer to
The
morning show.
results also say the same thing.
Yeah, truly. The results did really make me wonder about Goa.
Sandesh, you also freelance or have you been associated with a publication for much of your journalistic career?
No. I have retired from day-to-day journalism now. I run my small website called goanews.com, which was Goa's first news since 1999. But right now I'm into book journalism and do some little things on goanews.com.
So do follow Sandesh's website, goanews.com. The link will be in the show notes below. And you can check out all that he has to say about Goa. Also joining us on the phone line is our very own Anand Vardhan. Hi Anand, you're in Bangalore, I believe.
Yes.
I see. Well, enjoy the weather there. Delhi awaits you.
नहीं, हम तो मेहनत करते हैं, पैसा कमाने के लिए इधर उधर भटकते हैं.
अच्छा, चलो ठीक है.
हम बाकी सब तो हम फन करते हैं.
हम तो झूला झूलते हैं. खैर, before we get into the discussion, Manisha will give the headlines.
So BJP wins in 4 states and AAP wins in Punjab. That's very significant headline. AAP won 92 seats out of 117 in Punjab. The chief ministerial candidate Bhagwant Mann won from Dhuri by a margin of 58,000 votes. Chamkaur Sahib, Aam Aadmi Party candidate again won, Charanjit Singh. And the Congress candidate Charanjit Singh Channi lost. He also lost from Bador. Amritsar East constituency saw giant slayer from Aam Aadmi Party, Jeevan Jyot Kaur, who destroyed Bikramjit Singh Majithia and Navjot Singh Sidhu. So that was quite an election in Punjab. In UP, the BJP won all 8 seats of the Lakhimpur Kheri district. In the Uttar Pradesh Assembly polls, the total tally for BJP is 255 seats out of 403. They've increased their vote share, so has Samajwadi Party. We can discuss that in a bit of detail. In fact, BJP vote share increased to 41.29 this assembly elections. There are lots of think pieces on this, what happened, the coalitions that occurred, caste coalitions and all that. Uttar Pradesh Deputy Chief Minister Keshav Prasad Maurya, however, lost. And Samajwadi Party's Pallavi Patel won by 7,000 votes. We have an interview with her. Akanksha had actually followed her in Sirathu constituency, so you can watch that. Bahujan Samaj Party managed to win only 1 of the 403 assembly seats in Uttar Pradesh. Their vote share this year was 12.88%. This is almost a drop of 10% from 2017. BSP also won 1 seat in Punjab. PM Modi hailed Yogi Adityanath for being first UP CM to be re-elected after completing term. The BJP has emerged as the single largest party with 20 assembly seats and is on its course to form the government in Goa. I was a bit surprised with this result, and we can discuss this with Sandesh. Former Goa Chief Minister Manohar Parikar's son, Utpal Parikar, lost with 700 votes in Panaji. And the Bharatiya Janata Party's Antasio Montserrat won. He's popularly known as Babush, bit of a strong man there. 2 wins for AAP in Goa. And Arvind Kejriwal said that this is honest politics and it's beginning in Goa. The Bharatiya Janata Party alliance partners secured victory in Manipur, winning 32 constituencies in the state assembly election. BJP won 32 out of the 60 seats, so they can effectively form the government without the alliance partners. Uttarakhand elections were also quite interesting. BJP crossed majority mark quite comfortably, but the CM Pushkar Dhami lost his seat. Harish Rawat, CM aspirant, also lost his seat, and Colonel Kotyal, Aam Aadmi Party CM candidate, also lost. Meanwhile, the 2 daughters, Ritu Bhushan Khanduri, who's the daughter of former CM BC Khanduri.
General BC Khanduri.
General BC Khanduri. She and Anupama Rawat, who's the daughter of Harish Rawat, they won elections against the same rival candidates who had defeated their fathers. So, betiyon ne badla le liya. NATO is not prepared to accept Ukraine. The alliance is afraid of controversial things and confrontation with Russia. That's what the Ukrainian president said on Tuesday. And that's it. So the week was mostly dominated by elections. But I must say that usually you have elections dominate way more time and space. This time, I think Ukraine competed with election news. Like right after the exit polls were announced, we didn't have endless discussions on it. People did go back to talking about Ukraine and the students stuck there and everything. So that was different this time.
So first, Jatinder, I just want to challenge you on one thing. How are you saying with such confidence that it is 100% that Congress will win had it not been for Sidhu and Amarinder's fight? I disagree.
No, I'll tell you what. See, talking about this, people were really disillusioned with Akalis, we all know, right? Captain did come to power with only, with one act of he holding a holy book in his hand and saying that, we will eradicate drugs, we'll wipe out the drug syndicate in Punjab and so on, right? And there were sacrilege, cases. And that was the time they had a landslide victory, right? So things were more or less settled. But yes, people were disillusioned that, Captain didn't really live up to his promise, and he was rather consorting with the Akalis. But yes, a significant chunk of people were also feeling that he was keeping the best for the last. Right. So, had it been not for, these messy infights in Congress, had the high command handled it better way. We always knew that Sidhu and Captain had issues, and Sidhu was more of a one man party, or he cannot work in a team. Even in that story of mine, I have discussed, how he had a trust deficit, how he had a trust issue with a lot of people. But yes, towards the end, it was more of, that race for the CM more than the race for the assembly elections, right? So I personally feel that either, Captain should have been allowed an honorable exit or whatever, or they shouldn't have got into, who will be the CM for the transient phase of nearly 3 months, there was no need to do all this. And see, obviously Captain also had his, loyals, and the entire party got divided. And then, everybody was fighting with everybody. Sidhu wanted to be the CM, and the people who were proposed as the CM candidates, Sidhu didn't want them to be the CM candidates. And, had Congress not messed up, this whole thing, this big time, because we all know that people were disillusioned with the Akalis because of the farmers' protests, the farm laws, and everything.
I was wondering about this also, that did having a Dalit CM also dent Congress more than it helped them? Because Dalits don't consolidate in Punjab the way you talk in UP and all these places. But seeing how many Jat Sikhs who control narrative, who control panchayats, were comfortable seeing a Dalit CM sort of rise. So I definitely think you needed a face from Punjab. And Congress, of course, it was too late. Irrespective of what they did with Amarinder, graceful or not graceful, people were already upset with him for a very long time. They should have done a mid-term assessment. If they had to remove them, they should have actually done it after 2 years and then figured their house out.
Okay, so there are 2 ways of looking at it, whether it was a strong negative vote against Congress or a positive vote for the AAP. But if the anti-incumbency is strong, the negativity factor cannot be ruled out. Strong negativities in politics generally take form of a wave. So I think the implosion within Congress was a factor. Also, the timing of that, the 1 year political unrest, and people looking for options other than the conventional political players. But the other factor is AAP is not a new entrant to Punjab.
But all said and done, it's just quite refreshing to see in Punjab, at least like when you spoke of major issues. At least I didn't think that education, I'd hear of it so often and so soon. Because we would always have this idea of elections being fought on maybe say welfare schemes or caste lines or religious lines or some other issues.
I want to make a small point.
Yeah. I'll just finish my point and then I'll come to it. So it was quite refreshing to see in Punjab how there was so much talk about education and higher education.
What's drugs?
Of course, big issue.
It is. Still.
And basically people feel that neither Congress nor Akalis have a stake in cleaning up the mess. Because they are all, and it's not just drugs, it's alcohol also. There's a bigger alcohol addiction problem. And it is true that there's a political nexus. There's an involvement of the alcohol mafia with politics. So there's a very clear understanding among Punjabis that Congress and Akalis don't have a stake in clearing this up. Maybe these new guys will do it. So that is there, but also higher education. I mean, the kind of hope that people have from this government to fix education is really, it was very moving, and I really hope they work on that.
So before I summarize, I would also like to share a few things, regarding these elections and how AAP actually, emerged as the, what should I say? I can't even say the majority. This is more of a butchering or a complete annihilation kinds. Right. And I personally feel that it was one of the main reasons why people wanted to get rid of that binary of Shromi, Akali Dal and Congress, because this is the first time a third party has come to Punjab. And the one reason was that everybody was so disconnected from the masses. Right. And then Punjab, it all happened. It was like AAP was a phenomenon which was actually just waiting to happen in Punjab. Especially because, Punjab was going through a major meltdown, whether we talk about economic things, the unemployment, as Manisha has also pointed out, teachers were beaten up for merely asking their pending salaries, for being regularized. And now they have the, nerves to tell you that, we'll give you so many jobs if we get re-elected, right? And then there were sacrilege issues. Sacrilege, yes, it was deeply connected to the sentiments of not only Sikhs, even all Punjabis, I would say, right? Then there were drugs, then there was corruption, and then there were also issues like, the reinstatement and, of one of the very tainted DGPs, Sumedh Saini, and, those wounds are still fresh. Those wounds of fake encounters, those wounds of human rights violations in Punjab, and and then basically voters were really disenchanted, both with Akali Dal as well as the Congress guys.
There are issues in Goa, not that there are no issues in Goa. Issues are everywhere. But this time, one issue dominated the politics here in this election, because of which it became completely unpredictable. And that was the issue of defection. People were just jumping from here to there and taking people for granted. So the voter was quite upset that we have been taken for granted. So that issue was definitely there, and it was seen here, because all defectors are not defeated, but almost there were 18 MLAs who had defected from some or other time in 2017, right from the first day soon after elections. Vishwajit Rane had just took his oath and came, and he resigned from the Congress. And then he faced the by-election. And then just before, on the eve of elections, also so many MLAs resigned and joined other parties. So out of that, almost 11 people out of this 18, 11 people were thrown out by the people this time. Basically, people wanted fresh faces. And here there were three alternatives. So Congress was one, because it had given a lot of tickets to many new faces, because they had to give it to new faces because old faces had gone. Out of 17 who were elected, only 2 MLAs were remaining at the end of election, and one of them backed out. He retired from politics, and only one, Digambar Kamath, former chief minister, contested. So they had to give tickets to many fresh faces. So people opted for that also, because they did not readmit the defectors, which was happening all this time. But at the same time, people were completely upset with Congress. Also, they were looking out for other options, where the options were, three options were there: Aam Aadmi Party, the Revolutionary Governance Party, and the Trinamool Congress. But Trinamool Congress was basically admitting all the defectors. So they completely, people have rejected TMC and defectors in that sense. Not a single person from TMC has been elected. In the BJP, out of 20 people, the 12 people were imported from other parties. Almost, I think, out of these, the people who were imported, of 12 people, 8 people were from the Congress, and 2 people were from the MGP, and 2 independents who were quite powerful, and they got elected. So if you see in that sense, only 8 people are from the real BJP cadre who are elected. So that's why I'm saying, and I am not saying this. Babush Monsarrat said this, that I am elected from Panji by defeating Utpal Panohar Parrikar. Okay, but this election has proved that BJP has not accepted me. The BJP workers have not accepted me.
I was just seeing that Goa has the highest GDP per capita income in the country. So the per capita income, and by not a small margin, by it's almost 5 lakhs in Goa. And in other states, it's as low as 90,000, 80,000. Punjab, it is, I think, just 1 lakh 20 or so. Delhi is the third highest. I don't know, do you think, because you said that whole community thing doesn't work in Goa, and assuming that is a robust analysis, it also doesn't work in Delhi. So do you think one can conclusively say, because one does hear anecdotal evidence by even rich people are casteist, which of course they are, कि शादी हमारे community से होगी ये वो, but by and large, if you were to take as a statistical kind of, the more affluent and comfortable or the per capita gets of communities or states, the less casteist its politics becomes. Do you think that's safe to say? I would just like the panel's view on that. You want to go first, Manisha? Of course, like I said, correlation doesn't mean causation, but maybe it does in this case. Do you have
the less casteist in personal life, I don't know, but maybe expectations from politicians change, and identity isn't such a big issue then, because you're kind of well off. You've sorted. Also, of course, because when in a state like UP, which is so poor, you're dependent on government for resources for everything, like rations, like we discussed. It matters when your community is in power, because you will have more stake on stuff. So that fight is not there if you're in an affluent slate. It doesn't matter because you've figured your basics.
I would like to add something here. Punjab has the maximum number of Dalit voters in the entire country, right? Yeah. And Congress was banking upon this fact big time. Thinking that if 33% ka 20% bhi mil jayega or 35 ka 20 bhi mil jayega, then we have our die-hard Congress, voters. So हमारा 33-35 पहुंच जाएगा, और किसी भी पंजाब में anytime somebody gets 33 to 35%, that party is actually in the power. But see, this Congress ploy to basically place Channi as the Dalit candidate or the Dalit face of Punjab politics, especially to basically counter the anti-incumbency. This actually had a major backlash also, from Hindus, from Jats also. And, even I used to think that, okay, I used to wonder that, people in Punjab, especially in Punjab, Dalits never had a fair representation in politics, neither Dalits nor Christians. So I thought, at least this time, even though, in Punjab, we have different kinds of Dalits, we have Ravidasyas, Ramdasyas, Valmikis, and so on and so forth. But, I thought at least they might support Channi as the CM face, but then it didn't really happen that way. So I believe that there are no thumb rules involved here.
I think in all states, and as a news organization, perhaps this should also get a really focused attention from us. There is a lot of anxiety among young people over jobs. This is a real problem in UP, in Uttarakhand, in Punjab, in Goa also. You can argue that, okay, they only want government jobs and they don't want to take on available jobs and so on and so forth. But there is a sizable number of young people who are very anxious about the job situation in India and are expecting, if you're supporting the BJP, you want them to fix it. So they are going to be watching over the next 4 years or whatever term they've chosen, whether they deliver on this or not. And for the opposition, this is a huge space of discontent to capture. I think Akhilesh couldn't do it well enough because he jumped in too late. But the most vocal supporters also that we met of Akhilesh and SP were the youth, who were very, very anxious with what BJP's focus on jobs. Does it even exist? And they expected Akhilesh to probably push for that because they view him as a youth leader. It is unprecedented. I mean, the kind
Goa,
of hopelessness, even Goa.
Really?
Goa, there's a bit of a problem in what happens is that there's just people want a government job, and Sandesh can also elaborate on this, that they register themselves as unemployed even if they have a job because they want a government job. Because they want safety, security. I think Corona has also kind of pushed people towards that because they feel private mein to hame nikal denge.
Yeah, dude.
So ye bahut reliance on, but it is a concern.
I think healthcare is such a huge concern, and I don't know to what extent a government job gives you that. Maybe Sandesh can tell us whether it makes that much of a difference. But I will say that if you don't like joining the army, and I can tell you, my dad's in the army. The kind of R&R, that the hospital that you have available to you, if you don't have that, it can completely wipe out the bank balance of someone who's doing fairly well, also of someone of my pay
Sets
scale.
you back.
Even if you are from a well-off family doing well, it can wipe you out, significant health interference. So
I think government jobs things briefly we discussed last time. I think it's a combination of a lot of things: social prestige, matrimonial prospects, also a state being seen as an ideal employer, like health facilities. There's salary band of even the lowest employees way higher after 7th pay commission. Security is there. So a lot of things, but I slightly disagree with that. Unemployment is a huge political constituency to be tapped. There could be other openings for opposition, and there are many, and we don't know what will happen.
But Anand, I would like to add a point. I understand that in the yesteryears it was not like this. But trust me, for 1,000 posts, when 2 lakh people are appearing, there's a growing discontent. When when the sources of income are very limited, and when as it is being pointed out, when you can't afford healthcare. When you can't afford healthcare at in the government hospitals, like the people in the forces have, or other people are entitled to, these things, they actually make a major differences. And in Punjab, I have seen the previous government came into power saying that there'll be 1 job per family, which obviously the promise was not kept. And just imagine, lakhs of people, 10% was, I think 7.8% was the rate somewhere in 2017, of unemployed people. And even talking about the employed people, we should know, we must take into account, how much money are they taking home every month. So obviously there's a growing discontent, lot of anger, and when 10 lakh youth, they return back to their homes unemployed, that family, they will vote according to this particular issue.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
It has become very relevant.
It is at phenomenal levels right now. And I think one thing also, when people talk about jobs, whether it's older people because they're upset, they're seeing their youth just whiling away their time, or young people who are anxious, the expectations is not always ki government job chahiye. Government bhi chahiye.
Yeah.
Can you skill us? Like, what are your skill development programs for us? Can you get industries here? Can there be business? So there is a conversation around it brewing that we need government to create conducive environments, either give us government jobs or create conducive environments for more jobs.
all of you listening in, the Chhota Hafta, do subscribe so you can listen to the entire Hafta. We will see you again next week with the Hafta. Till then, subscribe, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Thank you. Goodbye.
All the Newslaundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to Newslaundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. सुन लिया अफ्रीका मुफत खोरों. Not to brag or anything, but Newslaundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free. All Newslaundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.